it's Kelly here from Spiritual Awakening Signs, and today we're covering in our masterclass how to tap into your psychic senses and unleash the intuitive abilities within. These abilities are already within you. You don't need to look anywhere else. You don't need to practice for years. We're going to get right into what it is you need to do to access that immediately. It's going to be such an awesome topic. So you're going to want to have a pen and paper handy, or even your phone to take some notes, but make sure that you're taking down some of this information, because I can be certain you won't find this information anywhere else. This is the crash course in psychic ability and psychic development, so I cannot wait to share this with you. Now, in this video, we're going to cover a few key things. We're going to cover the secret cause of blocked or disappointing psychic senses, so psychic senses that just aren't quite working the way that you would like them to work. We're going to cover how I tripled my psychic and intuitive abilities without years of practice. It's no joke. I'm going to share the story with you. It was an incredible experience and I can't wait to tell you all about it. We're also going to cover 3 reasons why you're not as psychic as you could be. There are 3 key mistakes that get in the way so that you can fix it, and 3 steps to unleash the awakened psychic within, because it's in there, and I'm going to explain why it's in there with your system and why your soul holds the key to these wonderful abilities, and you'll have some pretty awesome information by the time that we're finished. So to get started, let's talk a little bit about how I tripled my psychic and intuitive abilities, and that was without years and years of practice. Psychic ability didn't always come that easily to me. Now, you might find that quite hard to believe, because I'm running a spiritual website. I'm doing, energy healing, intuitive energy healing for hundreds of people, sometimes thousands of people watch. And if you told me 10 years ago that I'd be running a spiritual website and providing energy healing meditations to help people going through spiritual awakening, I would have just wondered how. That would have been what I would have said, but how? Because I'd spent years feeling deep down that I was a healer, that I was an intuitive, that I was a psychic, and I was really frustrated because I couldn't seem to access that power. I had this feeling as though that ability was within me, but I just couldn't reach it, and it didn't make sense to me that my psychic ability was so blocked. And I tried everything. I read every book on psychic ability you can imagine, and I'd done so since I was about 12. I was always a little bit alternative. I went to mediumship courses. I practiced different forms of energy healing, and I even did hours, and I mean hours of meditation every single day, thinking that would be the answer to try and develop what it was that was missing. But my intuition was still frustratingly blocked, and it was even worse when I would go to these courses, and the teachers there were so patient, and they would be teaching a technique and it seemed like everyone else could get it, and it just wasn't there for me. I'd be trying to tune in, and the harder I tried, the more it just blocked out completely, and they'd be saying, yeah, but but you can, but what the answer is, and I'd be like, I really don't. It's just not there for me. And it was really, really frustrating, and it was also a discord between who I felt I really was spiritually and who I was and what I could do in the 3D world. It just didn't match up for me. And I actually started to question whether I would ever be psychic at all. Was it something that I could actually attain? And then I took one particular course on energy healing, and I began using energy healing daily. Started using it every single day, and it felt really good to release a lot of stress and upset. I started working on a lot of the painful emotional issues that I'd been carrying around for years, or carrying around since I was very young. And it kind of revitalized my spirit. It changed my outlook on life. I became a lot more positive as a result of all that healing. And the most surprising result of all of that was that it increased my psychic ability and my healing ability 3-fold. Unbelievable, but it really did, and it didn't take a long time to do that. This happened very quickly. And I was already doing work with energy healing and doing other things, but it took that ability to a different level, to where it was so easy. It was effortless to tune in and work out what it was I was looking for, or what the person needed to know, or what healing we needed to bring through. It just changed my awareness of what was accessible to me. And what I couldn't believe about it was that it just felt so easy. It wasn't like before, when I'd been practicing techniques and trying to use the psychic development and having to really focus, in a really difficult way. It wasn't like that. It was just, the question was there and the answer just came. It was great. And it was amazing to me because it lifted a block that made me feel like I was walking through treacle every time I tried to use my intuitive abilities. So that block totally disappeared. That frustrating feeling of like I'm trying to get the answer just dissipated, and it was just easy. And I felt like I'd gotten my abilities back. I felt like I was embodying my soul, my true higher self. It just felt right. It just seemed like things had finally clicked into place. And maybe you can relate to that as well. And I kind of reflected on it, and I realised why this had changed. And I had healed not only a lot of personal emotional issues, which was part of the key, and we're going to go into what you'll need to do later on in the masterclass, but it was also about healing a lot of the trauma from being a psychic before. So in other lifetimes, the trauma that I was carrying from being an intuitive and using those gifts and showing the world what I had and working with other people, something had gone wrong. And that trauma and that fear and that terror, whatever it was that had happened, was obviously still with me. And that is very, very common for light workers, people going through spiritual awakening, people on the spiritual pathway, psychics, mediums, all that type of thing. We all carry this kind of resonance, this historic baggage with us from other lifetimes. And that really was the thing that made a lot of difference. Not years of practice, not trying different techniques, not going to learn new energy healing techniques, or learning new ways to access this and that. It wasn't about the time that I was putting in. It was about removing the blocks that were getting in the way of that psychic ability that was already within me. And I want to let you know that it's the same for you. If you're watching this, you have that psychic ability. This has resonated with you because you know on some level that you have that ability. You know somewhere deep down that you have that psychic and intuitive energy, that awareness, that ability and that skill. And there's a reason why you're watching this right now. It's because you know somewhere that it's in there, but you just can't quite get it to come to the forefront. And we'll look at some of the reasons why that's happening a little bit later on in the masterclass. It's probably fair to say that you might be feeling that you're struggling to use your intuitive abilities at the moment, and you kind of know that it should be effortless. I know that I felt that way. It was like, no, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. It should be easy for me to do this. That's when you know that it's already within your soul. It just has to be brought out. And the good thing is that when you do that, you'll find that you can actually be led by the universe. You can live your life being guided by the universe and using the information and the signs and the messages that you get to direct your life, to guide your life to the greatest joy, to use your intuition to lead you to where it is that you want to go and where you're meant to be. And of course you can live in tune with your true higher self, which is the most special and amazing part of it all. So let's just see. Now the challenge with that is that if you don't do this, what you're going to find is that you're going to have some problems. Spiritual awakening tends to bring up all of our stuff. So for a short while, what you find when you're going through awakening, and by the way, no one ever talks about this, but we cover it a lot on our website, spiritualawakeningsigns.com, it brings up all of your stuff. So within your soul, all the emotional issues, all the stress, all the trauma from every lifetime you've ever lived all starts to bubble to the surface, and it's usually different themes. Maybe your theme's rejection, maybe it's devastation, maybe it's that you always have obstacles to overcome in life. There'll be certain themes that show up for you again and again that you're trying to overcome. And when you go through awakening, it brings all of that stuff to the surface. Maybe you've noticed you've been a bit more emotional than before. Maybe you've noticed that you can be triggered really easily. Well, it's because spiritual awakening brings all that stuff up to the surface just for a short while so that you can heal it, so that you can release it, and so that you can become free from all the blocks and the limiting beliefs and the negative emotion that's holding you back. So it's really about getting yourself to absolute freedom. It is truly enlightenment. It's lightening the burden of all that heavy past life baggage and emotional weight that you've been carrying around with you. Now, the thing is, if you don't take advantage of this time when it's right at the surface, when it's easy to treat, what you're going to find is that it sinks to the depths again, and you'll wind up feeling frustrated, feeling exasperated, knowing that you should be more psychic than you currently are, sensing that you can do so much more intuitively, but being unable to unblock your gifts or release yourself from those inhibitors. It's going to be quite difficult. So my vote is, when it's up at the surface with spiritual awakening, when it's available to heal, when you can tune into it, even if you're not consciously aware of it, because it's not always something that we remember, but I can tell you that if you're going through awakening, it's at the surface. So make the most of it and take the opportunity to do something about it. And with that in mind, let's get into 3 reasons why you're not as psychic as you could be. Okay, this is really the fun stuff, because when we get into this stuff, what we're finding is that there's so much more psychic power available to you that you're not currently using, and it's really going on things that are not as important in your current moment and where you're going and who you truly are. So let's get into them. So they really work out as 3 main mistakes that people make. So the first one would be depleting your psychic power. Now, like I said before, emotional issues, stress, trauma, all of that is really, really taxing to your energy system. It really requires huge amounts of energy to maintain those issues, to maintain all that stress, to hold all that trauma in your field, to keep sending out those negative vibrations. It costs a lot of energy. You spend a lot of energy doing that all the time, even though you're not aware of it. And energy used in that way really steals precious psychic energy that would instead be fueling your psychic senses. It would be powering your intuitive abilities if it wasn't getting used on those things. And I'm speaking from experience. When I healed those emotional issues and pains, I freed up so much psychic energy that my abilities increased 3-fold. Like I said, it was such a change. It was like, whoa, I just wasn't able to see that stuff before. I wasn't able to tune into that stuff before. It was incredible to be able to get access to it. So that's one main thing to watch out for. Don't deplete your psychic power. So the second reason why you're not as psychic as you should be is you're probably making this mistake. You're probably neglecting your soul. Now, like I said before, during awakening, all the emotional issues, all the negative stuff, all the limiting beliefs, they all come up to the surface. Everything that's holding you back or causing you pain comes up to the surface, and that's when your soul's really speaking clearly to you. Now, it's uncomfortable for you because you're going through all the emotional turmoil, but really your soul is speaking to you, and every time you get triggered, you feel moody, you get upset, anxious, maybe even depressed, your soul is showing you what it is, exactly what it is that you need to heal in order to move into those higher realms of ascension, and therefore achieve much better spiritual connection and intuitive ability. Now, your soul will continue to cry out for that help until you take action. So you'll continue going through those emotions, you'll continue going through the emotional ringer and wondering why this emotion's coming up and why you feel like this, and your emotions and feelings will change all the time. It's really difficult. I've been through it, and we hear about it every day here at Spiritual Awakening Signs. It's really challenging, but that will continue to happen because it's your soul's cry for help. It's your soul saying, see this stuff that really hurts, I need you to heal it now. We need to get free of this. So you want to heal that so that you can free your soul for good. Like I said before, it's the enlightenment, it's letting go of all that baggage, lightening your soul. And it is essential that you take good care of your soul. It's really been through a lot. If you think of all the lifetimes that you've lived through that you don't even consciously remember, it is probably carrying the weight of so many lifetimes worth of damage. It's time to heal, and it's time to really take care of your soul. So please bear that in mind. Now, the third reason why you're not as psychic as you could be, the next mistake, is not resuscitating inactive or reduced psychic senses. Now, many light workers have what we call intuitives trauma, and that is resulting from past lives where we were embracing our psychic abilities. Maybe we were using our intuition in our daily life, but we sustained some form of damage, and that's through being judged, ridiculed, maybe attacked or rejected because we were psychic. Okay, so it's a direct result. Something painful has happened to us because we were psychic, or that's certainly how we perceive it. Now, it's natural then that our souls would dull, repress, or even shut down our psychic abilities, because after a trauma like that has occurred, we're going to want to make sure we protect ourselves and that never happens again. That's understandable. Now, thankfully, all is not lost if that has happened, and bear in mind, you might not even know that that's happened. I certainly didn't when I began energy healing. I had no idea that stuff was in there. But if that's the case, and we'll be able to go into that in a little while, all is not lost. You can call your psychic and intuitive abilities forth again, and you can fully use them, you can fully utilize them, but first they're going to require a bit of a resuscitation, and it's a bit like jump starting a car. You know, if the battery is drained, you need to jump start it. You need to give it that little kick to really get it going again, and you'll find that they just kind of rev to life. We do that with an energy download, which we'll talk about them in a little while, and that'll revitalise them. Like I said, just turning the ignition of a car is going to spark it back to life, and then after that it can work independently on its own because it's kind of fully charged again. It really helps, but most people don't do that. So don't make those mistakes, and if you're going to make some changes within your psychic ability and what you're capable of doing, now is really the perfect time to do it, because like I said before, spiritual awakening purges the soul. It brings all the pain, all the limiting beliefs up to the surface. Anything that's stopping us from really getting what it is that we want or being fully in our power comes up to the surface. Now it's coming up to the surface now, okay? It's right at the surface right now. So you want to heal those issues while you have access to them and while they're available to heal. Don't worry about how right now, because we'll get into that shortly. But if you have the chance to free your soul from masses of emotional and spiritual damage, then use it to get yourself to a place where you can fully embrace your psychic ability. You absolutely can do that if you know how. And that takes us on to our third part of the masterclass. We're getting into the steps. Now we've got a step-by-step system that we would guide you to use in order to do this. So it's 3 crucial steps to jumpstart your psychic abilities. Okay, now this is stuff you won't find anywhere else, but it has been tried and tested. I know it's been the truth for me and many of my clients. So you can begin working with this process, and like I said, don't worry about the how for just now. Just listen to the steps and we'll go through them and break them down so that you can understand all about it, and then we'll get into the how just shortly. Okay, now our special 3-step process to jump starting your psychic abilities goes like this. Step 1, you want to heal emotional baggage. Step 2, you want to heal past life trauma, so damaging experiences where you were rejected, persecuted, or maybe attacked for being psychic. And step 3, don't worry, we're going to go over these again. You want to revitalise inactive or lagging psychic senses. Right, so let's break this down. So step 1, you want to heal emotional baggage. Like I said before, most people don't realise it. Emotional baggage is the number one way to, if you heal it, free up emotional energy, free up energy that can be used with your psychic senses. So a lot of your psychic power is really dependent on how much emotional turmoil is going on within you, how much you're carrying within your soul, of which you might not know. Psychic energy is quite often wasted in maintaining long-standing emotional issues because they're being held in the energy fields, and those issues really rob us of that powerful energy that would otherwise be working to boost those psychic abilities. It would keep everything running, it would keep everything switched on, it would keep you tuned in. But if it's too busy working on other stuff and maintaining other things, it's like spinning plates. It's too busy working on all these other things to really focus on what it is that you need, to really give you all that availability of power at your disposal. Now, if you can begin healing the issues that are draining this valuable force, you'll find your intuition will be much more powerful. You'll have a lot more psychic power at your disposal to make you your most intuitive self. So that's really important. So step 2, you want to heal past life trauma. This is probably one of the most important aspects of this. They all work together, but the second part's really important. Like I said before, most of us on the spiritual pathway have experienced lifetimes where we have fully utilised our psychic abilities in past lives, and that allowed us to fully embody our true selves, our higher selves, our souls. Usually we were able to assist others with our gifts too, and sometimes that caused a problem. Unfortunately, the trauma of any lifetimes where we've been judged, rejected, persecuted, attacked, any number of negative things, when that's happened as a result of our natural gifts and abilities, we quite often shut them down, we block them out, we switch them off so that we can protect ourselves from ever being harmed ever again. Now, the great thing is that if we can heal that past life trauma, even if you never had any realization that you had that before, you don't need to consciously remember it. If you can heal the past life trauma that is being carried within the soul, then you can clear the blocks and open all of your psychic senses back up so that you've got those psychic abilities again, enabling them to be fully utilized in this current lifetime, which is really awesome. And then step 3, you want to revitalize or jumpstart inactive or lagging psychic senses. Now, this is the thing that most people don't actually realize about this. Sadly, if psychic abilities have been shut down or in protection mode, particularly for a really long time, it could be many lifetimes that that's been shut down, it's sometimes kind of tricky to reawaken them. In fact, our gifts can seem as though they either don't exist or they don't work consistently. So you might find that sometimes you pick up on something and it is crystal clear. Sometimes you have a hunch about something and it is spot on. And it doesn't make sense then when other times you're just dead wrong, or other times you can't tune in, you can't work on it. That would let me know that you have either shut down or suppressed your psychic abilities on some level. So if that's you, this is really ideal for you. Now, it can often seem as if we don't have them at all. Like I said, we've just kind of shut them down to protect ourselves. But all they really need is that quick boost of energy just to kind of jumpstart the psychic engine all over again. And we use energy healing to accomplish this and to bring your spiritual gifts back to life fast. It works really quickly. You don't need to do years worth of practice. You don't need special development practices or to meditate for hours. You don't need any of that. You just need to take the blocks away to what's already within you, and that is a fully intuitive psychic that is within you. Particularly if you're on the spiritual pathway, you've done this before. This isn't a first time thing. You've done it before. Now, the great thing is that changes can actually be made in minutes that will set your psychic senses up for life. You can clear them long term, and it's also going to make your awakening just that little bit easier too. And we've got a resource that will do all of that for you, but we'll get to more on that in a moment. Okay, so first of all, let's just have a little recap about what we've actually learned today, just so we're absorbing all that information. So we learned that the main reason why your abilities are shut down or blocked is because you were rejected, persecuted, or attacked for being psychic. There's some form of a trauma there in your past lives, and you might not even know that it's there, and that's okay if you don't. We talked about how I tripled my psychic and intuitive abilities without years of practice, and you absolutely can too. We learned 3 reasons why you're not as psychic as you could be. Because you're depleting your psychic power, you're neglecting your soul, or you're not resuscitating inactive or reduced psychic senses to awaken them back up. And then we also talked about 3 steps to jumpstart your intuitive abilities and unleash the awakened psychic within. And that is step 1, heal emotional baggage. Step 2, heal past life trauma. And step 3, jumpstart inactive or lagging psychic senses with energy healing. That's how we do it. So the good news is you don't need to go to energy healers, you don't need to train with expensive programs, you don't need expensive repeated sessions with a healer. If you're ready to get started on jump-starting your psychic abilities and healing those psychic wounds right now, then you can check out our brand new energy healing meditation. It's called the Psychic Wound Healing. And it's specifically created to heal the wounded psychic within, repair past life damage to your psychic senses, and help you embody your full intuitive potential. It's really going to open things up and activate things in a very big way. And we can get started in about 10 minutes time. You won't find a healing product like this anywhere else, I'm certain of that. Our meditations are a special kind of hybrid blend of meditation and energy healing and activations. So it's the equivalent of a specifically tailored energy healing session with me, because I work with my group of collective spirit guides, very high ascended spirit guides who are dedicated to helping us on the awakening pathway. And when we begin working with your energy, when you watch the video, when you tune in, no matter when it is, You watch that video and they begin working with you in real time. They start making adjustments to your energies and adjusting things in a way that is just perfect for you. It's not a general energy healing for everyone. They will adjust it to be specific to you so that it's taking care of your awakening, taking care of your energy, and making those important changes that are really going to push you forward and move you into those higher realms of ascension, which is very exciting indeed. And of course, you can use these meditations again and again. It's a lifetime thing. So you can use this meditation right now to help clear some of those psychic blocks. And then, of course, anytime you move into a next level of intuition, as you move up through those levels, there will be other blocks that come up, and you'll want to keep clearing those, and you can just use it again and again to get you as clear as possible with your intuition. It's really very exciting. Now, this meditation will do a few different things for you. It's going to heal past lifetimes where you've been judged, attacked, or excluded. If there's some form of trauma with your psychic abilities, it's going to heal that. It's going to clear the trauma from your point of attraction. So that means your law of attraction ability is going to change as a result of clearing all that negativity out of your field. Imagine the difference in the positivity levels. It's going to repair damaged or shut down psychic senses. It's going to release intuitive blocks that are caused by fear. So that can really open up what you're able to tune into. And it's going to reactivate dormant abilities, so giving you that jump start that you need to really help your psychic abilities to open up and be able to be used again. It can make a huge difference. So you can take a little look below and see if it feels like a fit for you. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.